You're listening to Wanderlust Diaries, the ultimate travel podcast for solo female travellers 40 and beyond who are ready to explore the world. Join me, Terry Reynolds, where we talk all things travel and why it's so important and what's stopping you from getting out there and exploring the world. We'll discuss the steps you can take now to fix it, empowering you to ignite your curiosity and set your heart free so that you have the confidence to travel wherever you want, whenever you want. Offering insights, tips, hacks, and remarkable women's stories along the way. So come on, grab your passport, pack your sense of adventure, and get ready to be inspired. Whether you're a first-time solo traveller or a seasoned globetrotter, Wanderlust Diaries is your community of like-minded souls, uplifting and supporting women over 40 who dare to explore. To today's episode of Wanderlust Diaries, and today I have a very special guest who is going to tell us all about Tokyo, tell us why she was there, what she was doing, and it's Juliana Coughlin. So hi Juliana, thank you ever so much for joining me today, really appreciate it. So before we kick it off, tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, hi. Thank you so much for having me today, Terry. I'm really excited to be here. And just so your listeners know who I am, hello, I'm Juliana. I am from the United States, and that's going to be a little bit more important when we talk about Tokyo because it will give you a reference frame of how far I traveled, specifically in Massachusetts. And I am an avid runner, which will also become slightly important. And I also manage a running shoes store, and I am a huge Harry Potter nerd. I'm a big book nerd. I host my own podcast about a book series, which is very exciting. And I have a dog named Myrtle, who is a pit bull, and she's very cute.
There's a lot to unpack then, right? Okay.
Yeah. Just a few things.
So what did you say, sorry, dog is it?
She's some kind of pit bull mix. I got her from a rescue, but she's so sweet.
Yeah. How old is she?
I think she's 7-ish, but again, when you get like a rescue dog, they're not really sure.
Not really sure.
So
yeah. Oh yeah. No, brilliant. Oh, I bet she's great company. I bet she goes everywhere with you, does she?
Yeah, she's so cute.
Yeah.
And she knows it. That's the problem.
Yes, I'm sure she gets lots of fuss, lots of attention.
For sure.
Okay, so let's unpack some of this then. So you have your own podcast, and you say what's the premise behind then your podcast?
Yeah, so it's one of the few podcasts, or like more or less many podcasts that I've done over the last like 5 or 6 years. But currently, it's the only one I have running, and it is about the Shadow and Bone book series, which if anyone has seen Shadow and Bone on Netflix, it only went through 2 seasons and then they canceled it like most Netflix shows do, honestly, because that's just how Netflix is. But it's a book series that is a YA fantasy series that is very good. There are many people out there who have read the book Six of Crows potentially as a one-off, which you can do. It's technically the 4th book in the series, but you can read it by itself. And a lot of people have kind of done that. So if anyone's read Six of Crows, that's part of the lineup. But it's just a talking heads kind of show between me and my best friend Jeff, and we're both very silly and very ADHD and very all over the place, and we have a great time. And we're actually taking our podcast for its 3rd live show this summer
It sounds like a lot of fun though, your podcast.
Yeah, we have a lot of fun. So, and it's accessible for anyone who has read the series before or is just looking to get into a new fantasy series, because it's like a book club style show where we read a couple of chapters, then we talk about them, and we read a couple of chapters, then we talk about them.
Yes.
So we try to make it as accessible as possible to anyone who wants to join in, either for the first time or the 100th time. And it's just a lot of fun if that's something you're into.
Yeah. It sounds amazing, and they're kind of popping up more frequently now, aren't they? The reading book clubs. I've been a part of a couple of them myself, and I really like those. And it also gives you a chance to listen to a book when you don't have time.
Yeah,
you have
it's
to
nice.
literally set aside some time, even if it's only half an hour. You have to set that time aside, and so therefore you will get through a book.
Yeah, it holds you accountable a little bit more.
Yeah. So love that, and obviously I'll put all the information in the show notes for you regarding that, so anybody who's interested can find you that way. Okay, so you've got your podcast, and so obviously you mentioned running as well. That's something that you're obviously into. So tell us a little bit about, not a little bit, a lot about Tokyo. So
Yeah.
why? What took you to Tokyo? And, there's a lot of questions around like the language barrier. How did you find it? How was it? So go.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, Tokyo at a baseline is like a bucket list trip for most people who don't live in that area of the world.
Yeah.
And kind of was on my bucket list for a long time. And I was the chronic watcher of YouTube videos of just like people going and doing cool things in Tokyo, and how I got to Tokyo, specifically like why I was there, was to run the Tokyo Marathon. Yeah, so there are 6 world marathon majors. You have Boston, Chicago, New York, London, Berlin, and Tokyo.
Okay.
And for non-Japanese citizens, Tokyo is notorious for being the hardest to get into, just because you have to either be a Japanese citizen, you have to go through a charity that you raise money for, or you have to go through the lottery, which the lottery only allows so the lottery is open to anyone in the entire world who wants to put their name in to this. So like hundreds of thousands of people put their name into this lottery every year. And like 5% of the people ever get through. And I had been putting my name into this lottery for a while, because right now, before I had run Tokyo, I've run the Boston Marathon twice. I've run the New York City Marathon. I've run the Chicago Marathon. So I had half of those marathons done. And as a non-UK, non-Germany, non-Japanese citizen, the only other really way to get into those other ones is via a lottery. So I've been entering those lotteries for multiple years now. And just based off of talking with some of my friends who have run this marathon previously, who are significantly older than I am, they pretty much had put their name into the lottery for like 20, 30 years and then gotten into it.
Wow.
I had put my name in for 3 years. And then the middle of last October, I got a kind of cryptic looking email, just because this is the style that the Japanese people were following. It's just very bare bones, very like to the point, which was kind of odd from an American standpoint, where we like a lot of like pomp and circumstance and flair, So I got this kind of like cryptic looking email saying that I had gotten an entry into the Tokyo Marathon. And I was like, this must be a lie. This has to be a lie. This isn't real. And I did my research and I asked my friends who had run it before, and they're like, no, that's real. Like you should accept that, Juliana. And so I like kind of had this like full week where I was like, do I do it? Do I not? I don't know if I have the budget for a trip, because the Tokyo Marathon is the first weekend in March. So I only had about like 4 to 5 months to plan out a whole international vacation that I had absolutely zero intentions of taking previously. And I was just getting revved up to actually go to New York to run the New York City Marathon. I was like 2 weeks out from that. So in the midst of that, I decided, I was like, you know what? Screw it. Let's do it. Like, this is a once in a lifetime chance to do it. And so I decided that's what I was going to do.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's kind of the main reason I went over there, is to get that 4th out of my 6 World Marathon Majors stars to do the Tokyo Marathon. And also I had a lot of things on my bucket list that I wanted to do while I was there. So I will say planning for a trip for Tokyo is not for the faint of heart. It is definitely a lot of logistics, and
I'm sure it's almost like managing a project. Yes.
Yeah, no, I had many Excel sheets and like Word and like Google Docs going, and I went fully by myself. So I went fully by myself. I did not go with anyone else, just because like, one, it's a very pricey trip solely because of the airfare.
Yeah.
What I found in Japan specifically is that because the yen is so weak, comparatively speaking to the US dollar, and I can't speak directly for other currencies in the world, but definitely against the US dollar, it is very weak. Like, I had a cottage that I stayed at the whole time that was really, it was like a 20-minute walk from the starting line of the marathon, which was kind of like my main concern. And it was in a very nice, like, central park, place area right next to one of the parks called Yoyogi Park, which is a very popular park in Japan, in Tokyo. But I only paid like $1,200 US for like 11 nights, which is not bad at all.
No, that's amazing. Oh, well done. Oh, was that an Airbnb, or how did you?
Kind of, they have like a little bit more, they have Airbnbs there, but a lot of, this place that I found it was owned by an Australian couple, and they have a bunch of locations all around Tokyo that they kind of do like an Airbnb situation with, but they were absolutely fabulous. Yeah. Which was one of the privileges of using them too was that they speak fluent English too, so that was kind of made my communication with my place I was staying significantly easier.
Yes.
So
let's just unpack a bit of that a second.
Yeah.
But, people who are listening and are thinking of solo traveling, but are literally a bit afraid to go solo traveling. And, my mantra is, don't worry about having to go off to far-flung places where you have to get on a flight for 10 hours and not speak the language.
Yeah.
So, this is coming from somebody who has traveled a little bit before, I would imagine. Have you traveled? Yeah. Have you done some traveling before? And so it's quite so alien to you, maybe?
Yeah, I've been kind of like dabbling in solo traveling for the last like 2 years, just because I've been working on myself, therapy. It's a good thing. We like it. And I kind of came to the point about like 2 years ago where I wanted to go to the Disney parks and Universal in Florida, which is like, it's like a 2-hour plane flight from where I live. And I was like kind of waiting for people to do it with me. And then I was, like, let's just do it. Let's just go. And I had like the best time and just like made friends with people. I'm just the person too that I'm not afraid to ask for help, which is a learned skill. And I also have like learned that like if you are like nice to other people, like you can very easily make friends. And I'm also kind of the person too where I went to that Florida trip and I just like made friends with like literally everyone I ran into, and all my friends were like, of course, Juliana, this is exactly what you did.
Yes.
But I'm not like scared to talk to people. And just like not scared to kind of like be a little bit more outgoing, which is a learned skill too. Like I used to be really, really shy, but I've just kind of, it takes practice. It takes practice. And definitely I will say that it was good that this Japan trip came when it did. And I had like this trip, I had my trip to New York City. I had a trip to Georgia that I took, a trip to Finland where I went to Finland and London. So this wasn't my like big first foray into like solo traveling, which I will say is maybe not like the slickest move if this is your first foray into solo traveling.
No. But, looking at it from somebody who's done this from your point of view, you didn't just get on a plane and go to Japan.
No, there's a lot of planning.
I want people who's listening and thinking, oh my God, Japan, it's so small, take some small steps, go locally. And I say that on every week on every podcast, just go local to start with. You have to build that confidence up. But this is where you can get to, because believe me, once you've done it once, that feeling of, it's like euphoria of like, I've done it. You're so pleased with yourself that you've done it. You cannot wait to book the next one. And so this is an accumulation, isn't it? Of going to Japan. So this is brilliant, for the pod, for people to listen to. And I love it. I love it because I haven't been to Japan myself.
So I can't wait to go back.
Well, it's on my
list,
So yes, I can't wait to do that. So you would have had to plan this, like we said, it was practically a mini project in itself, planning all of this out. Were you worried about the language barrier? Because I would think that's the first thing people are going to think of is like, how on earth do you communicate with anybody?
Yeah, so I definitely have dyslexia. So me learning, one of my hardest things is learning foreign languages. Like I literally almost failed out of like middle school Spanish multiple times. And I know this about myself. And even when I went to Finland, I did learn a little bit of Finnish, like tervetuloa is welcome. Like I can still remember like a few little things that can kind of like get you from place to place. And I knew from that trip that I used Duolingo, and I did like a little bit every day. And it's more for me like the familiarization with the language, so that way I don't feel like completely like my brain is just in shock when I show up there. Like I hear people talking and I can recognize a few words. I look at a sign and I can recognize a few words. I will say the biggest thing that I did is talk to people that had been to Tokyo specifically before. And most of them said to me, Juliana, you don't need to speak Japanese to go to Tokyo. And I will confirm they're kind of right. Yeah.
Yes.
I didn't really actually need to speak any Japanese. Like, it was nice to be able to say, like,
Yeah.
arigato gozaimasu, which is thank you very much, and like things like that, where like you could just say like thank you and please and things like your basic things like this, or like doko desu ka konbini, like that's where's the convenience store, like just like basic things.
Yeah.
That was useful.
I think it kind of shows them as well that you've been trying, you know,
Yeah.
just expecting to go there and just expecting them to answer you, that you've actually tried to do a little bit as well. And I think that goes a long way. I'm the same. I'm learning Spanish at the moment on Duolingo. You know, and I'm not expecting to be fluent at all, but it's just getting familiarization, isn't it? So I'm with you on that. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, so it wasn't.
Yeah.
It wasn't that, you know, barrage of Japanese thrown at you where, you know, you just couldn't understand anything. So that's good to know. It's good to know. But again, you know, you are going to a different country, you know, so please, you know, I say that to everybody as well. Please embrace that. Don't expect to go there and for it to, you know, the culture to be like your own, because what's the point of going really? Just embrace the difference, the new culture, isn't it?
Yeah, and I will say, like, the biggest thing I would say if you're going to go to Japan in regards to like the language and just in general is be respectful, which is obviously something you want to carry with you to any foreign country that you're going to. You want to be respectful of the culture, but the culture of Japan is just like, I've never seen a more respectful like culture in my entire life. They just carry that at such a high esteem that they are so respectful of every single person that they interact with. You need to mirror that. You need to be just as like kind and appreciative of everything that they're doing for you. They're just as kind and helpful. Like I had some people who like I felt bad asking them for help, and like we couldn't communicate very well, because I will say, comparatively speaking to like if you go to like a European country, most of the people in Japan don't speak any English. Like they do not speak any English. The people you interact with at like your like kind of central points, your train stations, your airports, things like that, they will speak some English. But people you run into on the streets, or if like I went to like the Harry Potter studio tour or like Disneyland, none of them speak English at all. So it is a little bit different than say going to like when I went to Finland or going to Germany or going to like France, where people are a little bit more indulgent or a little bit more familiar with like the English language, just because they probably interact with more people who speak English, just because of the proximity to other countries that speak English. But if you're respectful with people and you're kind, they are so happy to help you, and they feel bad when they can't help you. I like the body language and everything from interacting with so many people. They like actively felt bad. I felt bad asking them for help and like not being able to tell them exactly what I wanted, and they felt bad that they couldn't help me. And I was just like, it was just such an interesting dynamic, and they were so willing to help. Like I said, like you said, I went on this trip fully solo, which is funny because if you look at all the pictures that I have from this trip, you would think that I had someone with me, but I just was so good at like asking people to take pictures for me. And like even like the Harry Potter studio tour, I have so many pictures with me in it. Like you definitely would think I had someone who was there taking pictures for me, but it was just random people I found throughout like my tour as I was walking, who I would just like ask them like, can you take my picture? And just like arigato gozaimasu, and just like thanking them and just being so appreciative and doing like a nice little like respectful bow. Just like that gets you so far.
It's about getting comfortable with the uncomfortable, isn't it? Because eventually you do become comfortable with it. You know, it is a bit uncomfortable to start with, but you have to start somewhere, otherwise you will literally be on your own the whole time.
Definitely.
There's no need for that whatsoever.
Yeah. I will also say one of the best things about traveling to Japan as a solo traveler is that I found that everyone in Japan operates as a solo traveler. So you go to Japan, and I felt like the people, like especially more around like the marathon day, because there were a lot of people who were coming from other countries, groups of people who were traveling from other countries. I saw a lot of groups of some loud Americans hanging around, you know, as you do. But the groups of people felt more out of place in day-to-day Japanese culture than just me by myself, like not talking to other people, because everyone, you get on the train, everyone is just like by themselves in their own little zone. You sit down, like everyone just operates through the entire world of Japan and Tokyo as a solo traveler. So I felt like just I belonged there. I was like, oh yeah, this is right. This is normal.
Yeah. Oh, that's comforting as well, isn't it, in itself?
Yeah, it was definitely very nice to not, because I mean, like, I've been places in the United States, I've been places in Europe where I'm just like, you feel kind of left out when you're not part of like a bigger group, more or less. But I didn't go anywhere where I didn't feel like I could just be a solo traveler operating in the world, and like that was the norm. That was not an outlier. That was like the normal thing for every other person in that space to be operating as a solo traveler in their day-to-day life.
Yeah, and talking about, being solo travelers, amongst solo travelers, did you, and I know you were there to meet people because you were, you had a purpose for going there, so you would be meeting people anyway. Did you at all ever feel lonely while you were there?
Yeah, I will say I felt a little bit lonely while I was there, more or less like very much towards the end, because I was there almost 2 weeks, and I just was kind of like, one, missing my dog, and and two, just kind of wanting to be back in my own space. Like the cottage I stayed at was very nice, but just kind of wanting to be back in my own space for a little bit. But I will say, comparatively speaking to a lot of the other trips I've gone on, and this is definitely the longest and the most intense trip I've been on for like multiple reasons, like running a marathon, 16-hour plane flight in either direction, 32-hour travel days on either side, like just doing so much, like going to Disney World for 2 days, doing all this Harry Potter stuff. I got a tattoo while I was there. Like I did a lot of stuff. I honestly felt like lonely maybe like 2 to 5% of the time of that entire trip, because it just was, like I said, like everyone there was kind of operating as a solo traveler, so you never felt left out of anything. You never felt like there was like something that you were being left out of. And there's just so much to experience in Japan and so much to take in that like I said, these people are so nice. They're so nice. I have nothing but nice words to say about every single person that I interacted with.
And I can imagine, the time that you were there, you were literally flat out, I would have thought, 100 miles an hour.
Oh, yeah.
Every day, because of course you want to see everything. It's not every day you go somewhere that far from wherever you live. And so, I can imagine that. And it can take its toll as well. It can get, you can get really tired from it as well.
Yeah. And at the end, I was definitely tired.
Yeah, and it's knowing how to cope with that and put some kind of techniques in place so that you're aware of that will happen, so that you set aside some time for yourself, even if it's just a couple of hours to make sure that you recharge your batteries.
Well, that's one of the best things too about solo traveling as well, is that like you can make your own schedule for the most part. So like on my last couple of days there, I was definitely like kind of burning out a little bit, getting a little bit on the tired side of things, which is, I mean, with all the things that I did, highly understandable. And came back to my cottage for like a couple of hours in the middle of the day, because the Japanese, the Tokyo subway system is absolutely like 20 stars out of 10, just absolutely fabulous. They say the train is showing up at 12:56. It is there exactly on the dot at 12:56. No later, no earlier. That is exactly when it shows up. Thank you very much. If I grew up in Japan, I would never have travel anxiety. So I went to see like a Broadway style show while I was in Tokyo, which was phenomenal. We had, like, you have intermission, there's a bathroom break. Usually the ladies' restroom line like takes the entire time to get through. They got every single woman in that theater through in less than 10 minutes through the bathroom. I've never seen a more efficient bathroom line in my entire life. I was in shock. I was in like full on shock.
That's amazing.
I've been to many theater shows in the United States, and I was just like, I know how this usually works.
Yes. Military precision, that sounds like.
It was wild. I was like, they had a system and they stuck to it, and we all got through the bathroom and we were all back in our seats with at least 10 minutes to spare. And I was like, wow.
Some lessons to be learned there.
Yeah, they know how to be efficient over there. But being said, like the Tokyo subway system and every system they have there is very efficient. But yeah, I like knew that I could get back to my cottage like relatively easily, and I came back in the middle of the day, like just kind of like sit down, take a break. You know, I knew I was getting tired, but I had some things left that I still wanted to do, or that I had scheduled later in the day that I didn't want to miss out on. Like my last day, I went to a capybara cafe and I met a capybara, and it was very cute.
Oh,
yeah. That was kind of how I like I capped off my trip. That was my last night there, was going to meet little.
I mean, you
capybara.
talked about the marathon. So how did you do?
I had a great time. I mean, honestly, I was having the best time ever. Obviously, it's not my first marathon.
Yeah.
The training at my training block like was not very good. But like I think just because my body made it through like the 32-hour travel day on the other side, like, and I was just so like thankful and excited and just jazzed to be there.
Yeah.
I had the best time, and it was so much fun, and I loved every second of it. I actually, in true Juliana style, I made friends with multiple people as I was running, because I like to talk to people while I'm running. And I actually started off the marathon with this older gentleman who ended up being from Maine in the United States, which anyone who knows Maine would be like, that's where some of the interesting people in the New England area live. They're kind of like the back hick side of New England up here. But he ran the whole marathon in a pair of yellow Crocs, and apparently he does that normally, and I was like, okay,
well, why not?
Yeah, you know, like that's, I mean, I prefer my running sneakers, but like, you know, hey, if it works. He was a very interesting human being, and like that was just like the start of my marathon experience, and it kind of just like kept going like that from there, and I was like, this is fun, this is like an exciting time.
I'm glad you had such a good time. You went such a long way, so that's great that you know, that kind of fulfilled part of your dream there, didn't you? You know, because it's somewhere that you wanted to go to. So I wanted to ask as well, what kind of, you know, you step off the plane into a brand new country, a brand new culture. So while you were there, what kind of senses did Tokyo hit the most? Was it a sense of smell, the sight, the colors, the sounds, or was it a bit of all three?
I would say it's like a good combination of all three. Yeah. I think that Tokyo, and I'm assuming the rest of Japan as well, is kind of in the vein of everything is so clean.
Yeah.
Like it is immaculately. I think I saw like 3 pieces of trash collectively the entire time I was there.
Impressive.
And it makes it so it's unlike any other city you've ever been to, because you step out onto the main streets of Tokyo, and the actual streets themselves are so clean, but everything is so like bright and colorful and animated. And like Japan is this very interesting combination of wanting to put their best foot forward and like look refined and professional, but then everything else is like in a cartoon style. So it's kind of like professionally, you'll see like a lot of people who are like in like a very professional suit, like high heels, like they're looking extremely put together. And then they have like a Mickey Mouse, like a bunch of like Mickey Mouse keychains on their briefcase. It's like a very interesting, it's a very interesting like contrast, which I kind of found that in the whole city itself. It's like it's very clean, it's very refined, it's very just put together, but it's also fun, and it's also got a lot of colors, and it's bright, and there's so much to see, and there's so much to do, and definitely does have like an undertone of like soy sauce. I was trying to figure out what that had this like I had this smell that just like kept coming to me everywhere I went. I was like, what is that smell? And then I was in one of the little grocery stores, and I was like, that's soy sauce. That's like it's just an undercurrent that is just like kind of in the air, which I'm not mad about. Like it didn't smell bad or anything. I just couldn't identify it at first, which was definitely like an interesting thing. But it's just like everything else is so clean though too. Like that is what you smell, because everything is so clean in the city that you kind of like smell the cooking that's happening around you, which is wild.
And you said the transport, that was pretty awesome, was that as well? Quite easy to...
the best thing I've ever used in my entire life when it comes to transportation. It was so organized. And I will say the nicest thing for me as a non-Japanese speaking person was that every single line of the subway, well, one, the subway goes literally everywhere in Tokyo. Like you can get anywhere on a train, absolutely anywhere. And two, subway systems are all organized by a 2-letter abbreviation with the shape and a color. So you can and a number. So you can very easily follow the subway systems and know exactly when you are and aren't supposed to get off, or like where you're supposed to go. And there's tons of signage everywhere. And like even on the ground, like they have colored lines with the 2 letters and the number as to where you're going. So it's very easy to follow, even if you speak 0 Japanese like I did. So that was kind of nice.
That it's quite simple to find your way around. Okay, so I need to go. I just love the sound of it.
Yeah, you do. I can't wait to go back.
I might have to factor one in for next year. I've got to. I'm going to Bali next summer.
Okay.
My niece is getting married.
Wow.
And I was thinking of doing, like a wider trip. Go to Bali for days, because I've been to Bali before. Go there for a few days and then move on. So maybe Japan needs to be a trip on from there. So yes, you've given me some ideas now, having told me all about this. What would you say are the top 3 tips you would pass on to anybody who's never been to Japan before? What are the 3 things now that you've been, you think, right, you definitely need to do A, B, and C? What would they be?
I would say my first one is just to be respectful, because everyone is going to be respectful to you. And if you are respectful to them, then you will get very, very far. You'll definitely be in the vast minority if you are rude to anyone, and they will very easily see you, and you won't get very far in Japan. So respect, I would say, is like the biggest thing going into Japan, because it is such a big part of their like general culture there as well too. I will say that just exploring there's so much to do in Tokyo, and there's not like any one thing that I did where I can be like, wow, this was like the best thing in the entire world, because they were all like the best thing. And I will say, like, I'm a big like Disney Harry Potter nerd. So like I went to the Harry Potter studio tour. The show I saw was The Cursed Child from Harry Potter. I went to Disney World. Those were all really cool. But I also went to a bunch of the temples that are in the area and saw that, which was really, really cool. And saw like some of the other like the Sky Tree and things like that, where you can see the whole city line, and obviously the marathon, and did a lot of like sightseeing. So I would say just figure out what you like and just go for it, because you're never going to get to everything when it comes to Tokyo. Well, there's so much to do.
This is the thing, you'd have to be there for quite a few weeks, I would think, to be able to do everything. And if you try to do everything within a few days, you can't take it in where you go, because you're just there in and out, and you just don't really appreciate what you're going to see. So I agree with that. While you were there, did you actually feel safe as well?
Yes, no, there was not a single moment where I felt unsafe. Everyone there is like I said, everyone there is operating as a solo traveler, and everyone is extremely respectful.
Yes.
And it's just like, obviously, if I had gone into some areas that are like maybe not the best, I might not have felt as safe. But I didn't really venture out into like the red light district or anything, which I've talked to people who have gone there, and they were also just like, it's fine. Yes. But I can't speak from personal experience. Yes. But I never felt like I was at risk of like literally anything. Like, I mean, I was walking the streets with like 5-year-old children who were out by themselves, because their parents are just like, everyone in the community is just, and like the greater Tokyo community is literally just like, yep, we're all here to look out for each other. We're all good. Everyone is fine. And obviously, like, that's not 100% true. We all know this. The world is nuanced, and there are still trouble people out there. And that doesn't mean you shouldn't be aware of your surroundings. Definitely be aware of your surroundings. Absolutely. I never wore headphones while I was like walking. My thing is, I don't wear headphones when I'm walking around, just so I can hear what's going on around me. Or if I do, I wear like the bone conduction ones. So I can just hear what's happening around me. So be aware of your surroundings. But I mean, I was crossing the streets with like 5-year-old kids who were by themselves, and they were fine. And I was like, okay.
I'll just follow.
Cool. Yeah, you know where you're going. I don't know where I'm going. Yeah. So it was very safe. Definitely the safest I felt. I mean, the only other place where I can kind of equate that level of feeling safe is Finland, where I went, where again, it's just like a huge level of like respect. The people of Finland, like I always joke that you could leave $1,000 on the sidewalk in Finland and no one would touch it, because they would be like, oh, someone's coming back for that.
That's I think, Juliana, you're going to have to come back on to talk about the other places you've been, because we're running out of time. But we definitely need to do that. We'll have to have a part 2, I think, episode 2. So
Oh,
you can tell us, about Finland, because I've never been to Finland either. So
that's very cool.
That would be really interesting. And like you saying that about, you could just leave that money there. That's something I didn't know about Finland, so that's, so I'm sure, I'm sure we can fill another episode with more topics.
I'm sure.
So for anybody who is thinking of going, so for myself, I am thinking of going. Was it quite easy to kind of book your flight and then book where you were going to stay the other end once you got, getting off the plane and the transport, finding your way to wherever it is you needed to go once you got the other end?
Yeah, I found it very easy to get around, just in general. Like booking flights was no different than you would for any other time I booked flights. Like it was same process, just went through the online booking system. Same with like if you wanted to stay at a hotel, you can just book it right through the hotel's website. They're happy to talk with you, and like I just kind of went out of my way to do a little bit more research as to like finding a place that was like close to the marathon starting line, and then had a few places I was kind of like weaning out, and then landed on I'll shout them out, the Tokyo Family Stays. They are the group, they're the family, that's the name of their company. And 10 out of 10 stars, absolutely fabulous. And fantastic. I went with them because they had that one up that they spoke fluent English. I had a full cottage to myself. I had my own kitchen. Like it was just a great kitchen. So, but brilliant. Definitely like you could very easily book a hotel and a flight in the same manner that you've really booked any other trip before.
Well, that's good to know. That is really good to know. So, is there anything else that you think that people should know about going to Japan and preparing? I'm guessing that, like you said, you kind of hinted about researching. I would imagine. I mean, it's so easy now. You just go online and you can research, can't you? Where you want to stay, where you want to go. You could even buy your tickets online for any venues that you want to go to.
Exactly.
So I would think research is your best friend, really. Just find out what it is you want to do. Like you said, you alluded to that earlier. What is it that you actually want to go to Japan for? It may be that you just want to go to Tokyo for a few days, move on somewhere else, come back to Tokyo for the last couple of days, that type of thing. So it's rich, isn't it?
Yeah, I would say the number of YouTube videos that I watched is kind of not okay. Unacceptable, probably.
I would be exactly the same. And I did my first cruise back in January. And the amount of videos I watched as well. So I'm with you on that. I'm with you.
Yeah. I would say learn how you feel, and you'll do this through more solo traveling. Like learn how you feel comfortable. Interpretation about where you're going. Like I'm a very visual person, so YouTube is great for me. I can hear and see like exactly what I'm getting myself into, and like that's the best format for me for learning. Like I did look at some websites, but honestly most of the information I got was like an audio visual kind of experience.
You go onto YouTube, find out what it is, and then you go onto the website to book it or whatever it is then that you want to do. But I'm with you on that all the way. So I mean there's a wealth of knowledge out there that if you look up like booking a hotel in a very specific section of Tokyo, there will be reviews for that and a YouTube video to go along with it. So you just kind of have to figure out, generally speaking, what you're trying to do, narrow in a few specifics, and then take it from there. And I will definitely stand behind just like doing your research, especially when it comes to like where you're staying, internet and phone usage, because that's a little bit of a different beast no matter what country you go to, which I've learned the hard way. So that's definitely something. Definitely look into that. And I'm happy to tell if people want information. I'm happy to give them the information that I used. But obviously, it's a little bit different. If you're from a different country, if you use a different phone carrier, things like that. But it's something to look into. And definitely, the only other thing I would say is because I have a lot of chronic illnesses, so I had to worry about transporting a lot of medications with me, which was interesting. And definitely in Japan, they have a lot of medications that are technically illegal. So if you take any kind of like mental health medication, a lot of them are illegal in Japan. Again, research, isn't it?
So that doesn't necessarily mean that you cannot bring them, but luckily for me, none of the medications I take were deemed as like illegal, technically speaking. But if that is the case, you have to go through a kind of lengthy process with the Japanese medication side of things and fill out a form and get it approved. And you can only bring like 30 days worth of that medication with you. There are a lot of rules around that. Okay. So I will say if you
piece of information there for people.
Yeah, I will say definitely if you have any kind of like medication, like one of my medications I take is Humira, which is like an injectable pen that has to be kept cold.
Yeah.
So me finding a way to transport that from the United States leaving at 4:30 a.m. our time and arriving at with a 12-hour time difference, 7 p.m. their time the next day was an interesting thing. I mean, I did come to a good, like the solution I found was great. I actually found a little like kind of traveler tumbler looking thing that people who use insulin pens for diabetes use.
Yes.
Yeah, which was perfect. But it took a lot of research to find that.
To find it. Oh gosh, well done. So Juliana, if anybody is listening to this and they would like some more information from you, where can they find you?
Yeah, I would say the best place to find me is probably on Instagram. That's where I'm the most active. And I've actually posted a lot of my a lot of the videos and pictures that I've taken there. So you can kind of look at and get a little bit of a foray into the trip that I took if you're interested to see just like kind of what things even looked like.
Yes.
So that is up there. And my Instagram handle is jelly, as in like grape jelly, Anna, ANNA, _runs, RUNS. So
we'll put that in the show notes anyway. So people will be able to click on it straight away and take it straight.
And I'm happy to take any DMs or any questions that anyone has, especially if you have questions about like the medication side of things. More than happy to give you any information that you're looking for that I can provide.
Brilliant. Oh, well, thank you ever so much, Julia. I've really, really enjoyed this. It's gone by so quickly, as it always does. I think we definitely need an episode 2 so we can talk about other countries that you've been to, such as Finland. So thank you very much for being on the podcast. It's been lovely to talk to you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
No, you're welcome. And that's it for this week's episode of Wanderlust Diaries. Thank you for listening. And as I said earlier, I will put all of Juliana's information into the show notes. So until next time, bye everyone.
Bye.
And that concludes this episode of Wanderlust Diaries, celebrating the fearless spirit of solo female travellers who are 40 and beyond. I hope you found inspiration, valuable insights, and a renewed sense of wanderlust. Thank you to all our incredible listeners who have joined us on this exciting journey. Remember, age should never stop your quest for adventure because the world is waiting for you to explore its wonders. And don't forget to join our community on social media to connect with fellow travellers and subscribe and review us on your favourite podcast platform. All links are in the show notes. Keep dreaming, keep exploring, and stay fearless. Until next time, this is Terry Reynolds signing off from Wanderlust Diaries. Psst, don't keep me a secret. Please tell your friends and fellow travellers.